Residential Department Manager. Thank you for renting with Ray White Whitsunday. The following video is a guide of the steps required to finalise your paperwork before collecting your keys.
Hi, and congratulations on renting a property with Ray White Whitsunday. If you've just moved to the Whitsundays, welcome, and we hope you enjoy living here just as much as what we do. We have a large rental team at Ray White Whitsunday, and we may work a little bit differently to what you may have experienced elsewhere. Our team are divided up into specialist property managers, looking after all the various aspects needed for managing a rental property. If you need to contact us, the property manager that you need to speak to will depend on what you need to speak about. We have 15 property managers looking after your rental property, so you may not remember all of us, or we understand you may get confused on who you need to speak to. But don't worry, as we can all help you, or if we can't, we will put you onto the right person to assist you. We also put our contacts list in your leasing packs for you at the start of your tenancy, and we also provide you with a large magnet with our contacts to place on your fridge for easy reference. If you are still not sure who to call our receptionist and they will put you through to the right person. The only thing we really do ask is that if you are reporting any general maintenance for the property, that you put it in writing to us. We'll explain reporting maintenance a little later on. Our property management team work 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, but the office is open until 5:30 p.m. On Saturdays, the office is open 9 a.m. to 2 p.m, and our receptionist will be able to assist with anything urgent you may need. But the property managers are not in the office on the weekends. Once again, welcome to the Whitsundays, and we look forward to having you as awesome tenants in one of our rental properties. Before you rent any property in Queensland, you must be given the Pocket Guide to Tenants. This is officially called the Form 17A, and it is issued by the Residential Tenancy Authority. You'll find this booklet in your leasing pack, or you can also download it from the RTA website. This booklet contains some basic information on renting in Queensland, but most importantly, on the very back page, you will find the phone number and the website for the RTA. If you need to find out any information or require clarification on any requirements of renting in Queensland, you can contact them. Their phone service is normally quite prompt, but of course this varies depending on the number of calls they are receiving on the day. If you can't locate this booklet or need another copy, please see our team and we can provide this to you.
When you complete your application form, and then again when you sign your lease agreement, you agree that you will pay your rent in 3 different methods. Unfortunately, you cannot use the bank account details in which you paid your bond in 2 weeks. The first option in which you can make payment is with cheque. You can get a cheque from your bank. The second option is payroll deduction. This means whoever you work for will pay your rent from your wages directly to us. We have a payroll deduction form which is to be completed and returned to Ray White. There are no fees with paying rent this way. And the third option is a rent payment method which we refer to as Payment Gateway. Using Payment Gateway, you can automatically pay your rent by a number of different methods. These are either by direct debit, from your bank account, or from a credit card or BPay. There are 2 special terms when using Payment Gateway. The first is you must allow 4 working days for your rent to be processed from your bank account through to ours to ensure that you do not fall into arrears. Secondly, there is a small fee for each option. If you need a hand filling out any of these forms, please come into reception and we can step you through it.
Monday to Friday, we get a report every morning to let us know which tenants are late with their rent, and this happens every morning. If we have not received your rent in the morning on the day that we balance our bank account, you will receive a text message to advise you that you're late with your rent. You may also receive an email or a phone call. If you do not want to receive a text message every day about your rent being late, please ensure your rent is paid by the due date each week and you do not fall into arrears. Under the Residential Tenancy and Rooming Act 2008, you are required to pay your rent by the due date. This means you need to pay the rent for the week before you live in the property and not pay for the week that has just gone. Ray White follow a strict rent arrears policy, and this will not be varied. If you fall 8 or more days late with your rent, you will receive a notice to remedy breach. This is going to happen and it will remain on your rental history with us. If you would apply for another rental property at a later date, this would be disclosed as part of a rental reference check on you. If you receive a breach, it will give you 7 days to bring your rent back up to date and get back in front. Should you be unable to remedy the breach by paying the rent up to date, you may be issued with a notice to leave, subject to the owner's instructions. If we issue you with a notice to leave, it will only give you 7 days in which to vacate the property. If we issue you this notice, it does not automatically end your lease, so it's not an easy way to get out of your lease. You have broken the terms and conditions of your lease agreement, so this means you will need to vacate, but you will still be responsible for the rent up until a new tenant is found that will pay the rent and take over your obligations. This is a very serious situation, and action will always be taken in the best interest of the landlord and their instructions. Should you find yourself unable to pay your rent, please call us and discuss it with the property manager, and we can work together for a solution. Not calling us and not replying to our phone calls will not help the situation. We understand that life happens, and we may actually be able to help you in some way. On the first day of your tenancy agreement, and at a time advised by your property manager, you are able to collect the keys for your property. You will sign for the keys and you will be given a photocopy of them as well for your records. This helps at the end of your lease so that you know what keys you need to return when you vacate. You will also receive a Form 1A entry condition report at this time, along with an inventory if your property has any furniture. These are both very important documents and will help you at the end of your tenancy if you complete them correctly. It is a legislative requirement that you complete and return this to us within 3 days of the commencement of your lease. If you do not return the report to us, it means that you have agreed with our report and have nothing to add. This is the document that will be used at the end when we do your vacate inspection. So we recommend that you take the time to ensure everything we have written is correct and then return it to our office within those 3 days. If you return it after 3 days, we cannot take note of any of your changes or comments. The instructions for completing the report are written on the first page if you have any questions. Once it is returned to us, we will read the report and contact you if we do not agree with your comments or we have any questions on your changes. We will then return a copy of the report to you on email for your records. It is a good idea to check with us if you do not get a copy back to ensure we have actually received your report. When you do come in to collect your keys, you must have paid your bond and the first 2 weeks' rent. If our finance department are unable to identify your rent, you will be asked to provide proof of payment, as we cannot allow you to enter the property until this has been confirmed. The 2 weeks you have paid prior to collecting your keys is your first 2 weeks' rent. You are not required to pay the rent again until the end of these first 2 weeks. Most general maintenance at the property is the responsibility of the owner, and we appreciate the prompt reporting of all maintenance to our office. All maintenance is to be reported to Ray White in writing, and preferably on the Maintenance Manager application, which you can download to your phone. It is available at either the Play Store or the App Store. We have included the details on how to do this in your leasing pack. It is a great application that is free to download onto your smartphone, and it's really easy to report all maintenance as soon as you know about it. Please remember to include as much detail as possible so we know exactly what the problem is, and if you can, include some photos too. The Maintenance Manager application allows you to take photos and report it at the same time. This allows us to inform the owner of exactly what the problem is when we're seeking their approval to have the repair done. It also means we won't have to bother you further to get further information on what the problem is. Just remember that all emergency maintenance should be phoned through to the maintenance team if it's during normal business hours. If it's after hours, please call the nominated repairers on your lease agreement. The emergency tradespeople and their phone numbers are listed on your lease and also on the magnet that you've received as part of your leasing pack. Do not report emergency maintenance using the Maintenance Manager application, as this application uses email, so we may not see it as quickly as we need to. In your lease pack, we have also included a maintenance troubleshooting guide. Please ensure you run through this prior to calling us to report any maintenance. It goes through some common errors that can occur and can easily be fixed without the need of a tradesperson to attend. If we do send out a tradesperson to make a repair and no fault is identified, the call-out fee for that tradesperson will be passed back on to you for payment. The owner of your property has installed smoke alarms in accordance with legislation. At no time are you to interfere with the operation of the alarms. You are in breach of your agreement if you take an alarm down or remove a battery. Should an alarm start beeping, you will need to change the 9-volt battery. Or alternatively, contact Ray White and we will arrange this, but it may take a couple of days for us to get someone out there. We recommend you keep a spare battery in your kitchen drawer for this reason. Unless you have told us of an issue with the alarms, they will be checked by a qualified person prior to your tenancy, at your lease renewal, or every 12 months if neither of the first two options are applicable. For the safety of yourself, your family and your friends, do not interfere with the operation of the smoke alarms and advise us if there are any problems with them so we can have them repaired as quickly as possible. We carry out routine inspections for our owners every 3 months. Your first inspection may be sooner than 3 months, depending on where it falls in the schedule. However, every following routine will be 3 months later. You will be issued with a Form 9 entry notice, giving you at least 7 days' notice that we are attending. As we conduct over 200 routine inspections each month, it is unlikely we will be able to move the date or the time of your inspection. Whilst we would like for you to be present at your inspection, it is not a necessity. If you cannot be home and you need to tell us something, please email it through to the routines team 24 hours prior to their attendance, and then they will look at it while they were there. If there is maintenance to be reported, please do not wait for the routine inspection to let us know. Send it through on the maintenance application straight away. We will be taking photos at the inspection to show the owner the current condition of their investment property. These photos are only shared between Ray White and the owner and are not used for any other purpose. Please refer to Special Term 12 of your tenancy agreement. At the end of your lease, you may vacate the property. All tenants listed on the lease will need to give notice. We cannot accept a notice to leave until we receive confirmation from all tenants. The 2 weeks' notice will take effect from the date that we receive the last tenant's confirmation. We will date stamp at reception all notices that are received over the counter. Otherwise, if it is received from an individual email, the date of the last email received. The vacate date does need to be the end of the date listed on the lease, or it can be a date after that. If you do not give us notice, we will assume you are staying at the property. Should the landlord wish for you to leave the property, they are required to give you 2 months' notice in writing. When you give us notice, we will give you a guide to vacating. This guide goes through the whole vacate procedure and what your requirements are. It is suggested that if possible, you read this guide well before handing in your notice to leave. This will ensure you're fully aware of your requirements when it comes to vacating the property and that you've allowed enough time to fulfil your obligations. We are also here to answer any questions you may have and assist in ensuring that your vacate goes as smoothly as possible. When you hand back the keys, the biggest point to remember is that the property and its inclusions must be in the required condition, ready for the next tenancy to commence immediately. There is no legal requirement to allow you to reattend to items after you have ceased to pay rent at the property. When you bring back the keys to the office on your day of vacate, please ensure you have the following completed. You need to bring back all the keys you have been given for the property. We will photocopy these and get you to sign them back over to us. We do not have an after-hours drop box, so you will need to return them when the office is open. You need to ensure the rent is paid up to the day of your vacate. If you do not return the keys on the day of your vacate, you may be charged rent up until the day you return the keys to the office and we are given vacant possession. All your personal belongings must have been removed from the property. The property is to be left in the same condition as originally provided to you, taking into account fair wear and tear. Remember, we will be using your original entry condition report provided to you at the start of your tenancy. You should have completed the exit condition report, and the instructions to complete this form are on the front page of the document. If there are carpets in your property, you will be required to hand in a receipt with the keys to show they have been professionally cleaned. You cannot clean these yourself by hiring a carpet cleaner from the local supermarket. This should also be completed by your vacate date and not after you have handed the property back to us. You may also be required to have the soft furnishings cleaned. Please refer to the special terms on your lease. If you have any questions or you're not sure on this, please speak to a property manager. If you have had a pet at the property, you will need to have a professional flea and tick treatment completed both inside and out. Fleas don't always stop at the door. This receipt is also required to be handed in with the keys. If there are any other special terms on your lease, you will also need to have these complete by the time you return the keys to this office. We are here to assist, and the team in the vacates department will answer any questions you may have, as they do vacates every day of the week. It is our aim to re-let the property as quickly as possible, and that means we want to ensure that you get a full bond refund. To enable this to happen, you need to do your part. We understand this can be a very stressful time, as moving is never easy, but please give us a call and we will do what we can to assist. You may need to leave the property before the end of your fixed term, and what can you do? Firstly, give us a call and we can discuss your options. In most instances, it is possible, and this is called a break lease. You will need to tell us when the property will be available for a new tenancy and put in writing to us that you will be breaking lease so we can advise the owner. After we've discussed it with the owner, we will re-advertise the property for let and commence viewings. You can also advertise, but any potential new tenants must submit an application form and be approved by the landlord. You need to remember that your lease is a legally binding contract, and although we will do what we can to mitigate your loss, the owner is not obligated to approve any application that is not suitable, nor extend or offer a new fixed term to secure a new tenancy. You will need to ensure you hand the property back in the required condition, just like a normal vacate. You will need to pay the rent up to the day prior to a new tenancy commencing, or the end of your fixed term agreement, whichever is sooner. Should you have left well before a new tenancy commences, you may need to carry out a final sparkle clean at the property or have the lawns and gardens tidied up before the new tenancy moves in. You will also need to pay a break lease fee. This is equivalent to 1 week's rent plus GST. The General Tenancy Agreement, the Form 18A, is commonly referred to as the lease. This is your contract with the owner of the property that you're about to rent. It is very important that you understand this lease as it is a legally binding document. We are about to go through the lease in detail, so we recommend you have a pen and paper ready in case you have any questions. Jot them down so you don't forget them and go through them with your property manager. If you have a copy of the lease in front of you, you can run through each page as we talk about it. Let's start at the top of page 1. Each section is labelled with item numbers down the left-hand side of the page. Item 1. This is the owner of the property. However, as we act for the owner, the contact details are ours. There is no need for you to contact the owner of the property. Item 2 should be your name. This is all the people listed on the agreement as tenants. Every person listed here is responsible for this lease. Please ensure we have spelt your name correctly and we have the best contact number and email for each person. Item 3 shows our agency details as the managing agent. Item 4. This section shows the consent of all parties on the agreement to receive notices either via email or fax. We will email all notices to you to the email shown in item 2. Notices are explained in Standard Term 44 on page 7 of your lease, but can include entry notices and breach notices. Item 5 of the agreement has 2 parts. 5.1 shows the address of the premises you are about to lease. 5.2 talks about the inclusions with the property. We list all of these on the entry condition report, and if your property has any furnishings, we will provide you with an inventory. We will give you these when you collect the keys to the property. In another video, we will explain the entry condition report and inventory in more detail. Item 6.1 shows you the term of the lease at the commencement of this tenancy, and in most cases it will be a fixed term. Item 6.2 tells us the start date of the lease and the end date for the fixed term. Please note that the lease does not end on this date. This date is just the day that the fixed term of your agreement ends, not the lease itself. The actual lease keeps going on forever, and all the terms and conditions remain valid from this date. The only way a lease will end is either you tell the owner you are leaving in writing, or the owner asks you to leave in writing. If you wish to leave the property, all tenants must send us in writing with at least 14 days notice their notice of intention to vacate. The date of the vacate can be the end date of the fixed term or any day after this date. If the owner would like you to vacate the property, we will provide you in writing a notice to leave, giving you 2 months' notice. The vacate date can be the end date of the fixed term or a day after this. If you wish to leave prior to the end of your fixed term lease, this is called a break lease, and we'll discuss this in another video. As the owners of the property need to give you 2 months' notice to vacate, and most need to be reminded of this requirement, we will contact them at least 2 months prior to the end of your lease. We would hate for them to turn up on the last day of your lease expecting to take the property back, only to be told that they need to give you 2 months' notice. Most owners will require a fixed term lease on their property. This is mainly due to insurance requirements. Should you wish to remain in the property, it is recommended that you secure a new fixed term at this time. That's page 1, so let's move on to page 2 of the lease. Items 7, 8, 9 and 10 show you the details on the rental amount, when it must be paid, and how it can be paid, and where it must be paid to. It is our company policy, and also stipulated on your lease and agreed by yourself when you completed your application to apply for this property, that you understand that there are 3 ways in which to pay your rent. These are money order, payroll deduction, or payment gateway. The most common way to pay is using payment gateway, and this form has been provided to you to complete. If you have not already completed the form, we will explain payment gateway and the completion of the form in another video. We manage over 650 rental properties, and no other options for payment of your rent are available. We do not accept cash, credit card or EFTPOS at our office. Item 11 shows your rental bond amount, which will be 4 times your weekly rental amount. The rental bond is lodged and held at the RTA. Item 12 sets out the services to the property that you will need to pay for, such as electricity, gas, water. Item 13 details what percentage of these services you are required to pay. In most cases, this will be 100%. Item 14 advises how this service is to be paid. An example would be, if you are paying water, you may be invoiced for this by Ray White. Item 15 shows everyone the number of people who are allowed to live at the property. This figure includes any children. No one else can live at the property unless they complete an application form, just like the one that you did, and they have to be approved by the owner. If you have other people living at the property, you will be in breach of this agreement and may receive a breach notice. Item 16. If your property has a body corporate, 16.1 and 16.2 will be ticked and we will provide you with a copy of the bylaws. The bylaws are actually part of the lease and must be followed just like the terms and conditions of this lease. Item 17. This lets us know if pets have been approved to live at the property. If pets have not been approved, then any animal cannot be at the property at any time, even if they are only visiting. Pets include dogs, cats, fish, reptiles and birds. Pet application forms are available if you wish to apply. Please ensure you get approval before you get a pet, as we hate having to issue you with a breach notice and asking you to remove the pet from the property. Item 18 shows you the names and numbers of our nominated repairers, but only in an emergency situation. These are the people you would call in an emergency situation after hours only. If the emergency is during business hours, you need to call the maintenance department at Ray White Whitsunday. Standard Term 30 on page 6 of your lease will tell you what is considered as an emergency repair and also what is considered as a routine repair. Please ensure you read and understand this term. The tradespeople we have listed on this page for emergency after-hour call-outs know what they need to do if you call them. If you were to call them out for a repair that is deemed not to be an emergency, you will find that the invoice for the call-out will be sent to you to make payment. If you cannot reach the tradesperson listed on your lease, you may call another. However, you must attempt to call our after-hours emergency tradespeople first. All routine maintenance must be advised to our office in writing with as much information as possible, and photos too would be great. If you are aware the property has sustained damage, Standard Term 32 on page 6 of your lease states that you must advise us as soon as possible. Pages 3 to page 7 contain the 44 standard terms of a tenancy agreement in Queensland. These terms are the law and are non-negotiable. Please ensure you read these, and if you have any questions, please speak to a property manager. All the terms are important, so you really do need to understand them. If you now turn to page 8, you'll see at the top a section for special terms. As well as the 44 standard terms of your lease, there are some special terms. You are going to find these special terms listed in 3 places. Part 3 on this page is one area they may be listed. Page 10 and 11 is the second place, and also in Addendum A that is attached to your lease. Please ensure you read and understand all 3 sections, and if you have any questions, please ask a property manager. Over to page 9 and Item A. This area just shows the address for the service if it's different from the address of the premises, which normally it isn't. Item B on this page shows the names of all people that are authorised to reside to live at the property. Item C is just about a rent increase, and if there is going to be one during the fixed term of your lease. If there is an increase listed here and you are not aware of it, please speak to a property manager. Item D. In this section, we let you know if there is a pool safety certificate for any pool that is either at the property or in the complex if you are renting a unit. Item E talks about the key collection and return. The keys will be made available for collection on the first day of your tenancy agreement and must be signed for. The time of collection will depend on when the property is available to commence the agreement. The keys must be returned by 5 p.m. on the day of vacate, if it's a weekday, or by 2 p.m. on a Saturday. If you are vacating on a Sunday, you must return the keys at 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning. If the keys are not returned by these times, you may be asked to pay additional rent, so it is important that you are aware of this for vacate. Item F. This is a funny little extra area on the lease. You may have noticed on the front page of the lease that there are only 3 places available for tenant names. So if there is a 4th tenant, their name will be listed here. If you have any questions at all on any part of the Form 18A General Tenancy Agreement, please ensure you ask us. It is really important that you understand this agreement because, as mentioned, it is a legally binding contract between yourself and the owner of the property. Your bond. The bond you have paid will be held at the RTA. We complete a Form 2 bond lodgement form with you, as your details and the signatures of all persons that have paid any money to the bond is sent to the RTA with your bond monies. The RTA will require these same signatures on the bond refund form at the end of your tenancy. If you need to change any person's share of the bond once it has been sent to the RTA, you will need to come in and see us and sign some new forms prior to leaving the area. The RTA will only pay the bond back to the people they have recorded, and only the amounts recorded for those people. The bank account to put the bond back into must be in the name of the person that is receiving the refund.